He is known as the National Forest serial killer, but he prefers the Beast of Blood Mountain. His name is Gary Michael Hilton, and he is responsible for killing 4 people. He lurked in the woods, waiting for hikers so that he can prey on. He would observe weaknesses. Who could or would be the perfect victim? Terrifying individuals was just as important as the thrill of the kill. When asked the question, "Do you hate women?" Gary, without hesitation, said, "Yes, yes, I do." What do you do when you cannot enjoy parks or nature trails because you have to wonder, is this safe? Come on this journey with us today, where you can observe, listen, and learn ways to prepare yourself from pure evil. Coming up on CPF, Criminal Psychology Files Gary Michael Hilton, Predator in the Pines.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Criminal Psychology Files, also known as CPF. This is Greg Stewart, and today I'm reaching out to you with this podcast in reference to a heinous crime that happened in Georgia, not too far from Atlanta, in the Appalachians. And the Appalachian Trail, if you know it, it's like forever long. Like I've been in it in the Georgia area, and unfortunately, not too far from where these crimes have taken place. And it goes all the way to Maine. So this is particularly about a serial killer named Gary Michael Hilton. Now, he's been in the news years ago before. This crime had taken place between the year 2007 and into 2008. And he had 4 victims. And this person, you're going to find out, was so sick. There were so many signs that people seen, but how many drifters, how many type of people? And this person lived there. He was born in Atlanta, Georgia. He knew this terrain. And even though he's known as the oldest serial killer ever, and he loves that title, if you will. He loves the title of being the oldest serial killer, but who knows when his world really evolved in these heinous crimes, when he really started, because somewhere it had to start. And I know a lot of people go, well, did it maybe start with pets? After all, he was the oldest serial killer. And did he start his killing there? And then finally, after the urges built up, he did start as a killer in the later years of life? And I'm going to say no, because the one thing you're going to find through this story is that he had a love for pets, particularly dogs. Now, I don't know if it's because he loved that dogs are loyal and they're very submissive, but he had something about dogs that he just loved. And that was the key thing in reference to his relationship with his dog and one of the victims who also had a dog. You'll find a little more about that as well. But take a look at this person, look at what he does through the narration, and we will break it down from our life coaching experience together of what it takes to become this person. Now, in his youth, he took a bad fall at a very, very young age, and they believe that that could have played a significant role on his psychology because shortly after, I believe he had to have a surgery with that, and I think he was around 9 years of age. And so they seen these hyper ways about him right out of surgery, pretty much, and just things that made doctors wonder about his personality because the way maybe the brain shifted after he took that impact, if you will. So you have that building up. Then you had a relationship where his mom and father were not together. She had a stepfather. That relationship did not work well for Gary. Abuse, very violent towards him. And this happens in relationships, unfortunately, where sometimes even that person who is your biological parent, they think about their own stability and they go, well, I've just lost a husband, divorce, death, this, that, or what. And I get this in my line of work all the time. I know I should be there more for my kids. And I'm not saying it's everyone, but I have had clients that have put themselves over their children because they figured I have to prepare myself for moving forward in life at this stage. I'm not getting any younger. I'm not, I'm getting older. I'm already self-confident in reference to myself. I depreciated through the years. Look what you did to me. I'm overweight now. I've had this baby. I can't tell you the amount of things I hear in my line of work. So Gary had a very similar upbringing. And to get away, he joins the military, the US Army. And when he joins the US Army, they even find him dysfunctional mentally. They were like, we're going to discharge you. You're just not right for what we're looking for. There are certain things that are just not good here, Gary. So Gary leaves. Now he becomes this loner. Now he's out there as a transient in the woods, in the forest, picking up little odd jobs here and there. And even that shows red flags to certain people that give him work. But let's connect on what the narration says. Let's break it down as we go. And then we'll have questions, we'll have answers, and hopefully some red flags that you can pick up on today that will help you. God forbid you see something that makes your heart say, I need to get out of here. All right, so let's listen to this story.
Gary's documented first victims, John Davis Jack Bryant, 80, and Irene Woods Bryant, 84, were a retired couple living in Horseshoe, North Carolina. Married in 1949, they had built a life defined by service, intellect, and adventure. John was a distinguished lawyer and founder of a construction law firm in Skaneateles, New York. He served as the town attorney for nearly 30 years. Irene was a veterinarian who ran a large animal clinic. She was known for her compassion and deep love of nature. After retiring in 1991, they moved to North Carolina and embraced hiking as a shared passion, exploring trails, forests, and national parks together. They were described by family and friends as vibrant, curious, and inseparable. The crime. October 21st, 2007. On a crisp autumn morning, the Bryants parked their maroon Ford Escape at Yellow Gap Road and set off for a hike in Pisgah National Forest. They never returned. Irene's body was discovered on November 10, 2007, covered with leaves near the Barnett Branch Trail. She had been bludgeoned to death with a blunt object. John's remains were found months later, in February 2008, in Nantahala National Forest. His skull was discovered by a hunter, and evidence showed he had attempted a 911 call before being abducted. Investigators later learned that Hilton had used John's ATM card in Ducktown, Tennessee, withdrawing $300, the daily limit, while wearing a yellow rain jacket that obscured his face.
So John and Irene Bryant meet up with Gary, and I'm sure they were quite charming to him. In fact, Gary was very intelligent. Gary, when he was profiled, they said, this is an intelligent man, though psychotic. And he knew, and he even admitted, he goes, I knew how to get people's guards down. I knew how to get them to relax. And they would see me with my dog. And people know that people that love dogs are usually very good, loving, comforting people. So Gary, as we call in the coaching business, he utilized this knowledge. He utilized, he even said, if by using people's names when they introduce you, even when you have them hostage, it lowers their guard. And he is so right. They actually had trained us, me as a coach, see the person you're working with, see the person you're dealing with. Don't just make them an object. Say their name, say their occupation, say their title. Gary mentions this in his court TV interview, the importance of making someone from an object to a name, which also makes him even more psychotic that he can see you and still do what he did to you. So Gary utilized this, and he comes up to John and he comes up to Irene, and then it finally gets to the point, I want some money. I want your card, and I'm going to do this. So John's like, wait a minute, we got to know each other. We're talking, we're laughing. Get the heck out of here, John says. And now he's like shoving. He takes out a baton. This man's much bigger than him, maybe even stronger, but he's older. So Gary is beaten. And at the point, John knows now he's in trouble, and he calls his wife, Irene, and he says, "Help me out, jump in this there." And maybe he thought he could recover, do something, and then attack him with the help of Irene. But Gary's thinking, I just pummeled your man. He says this in the interview in so many words. I just pummeled your man. And you're going to tell your wife to come attack me? So while he's slightly disabled at that point, he does a number on her, takes her out completely. He's got this police-like baton, and he just destructs her. Then he goes back and he does the same to the gentleman, unfortunately, to John. And then he takes his items, leaves them, puts his body wherever he can away from the trail, and then he puts on a raincoat and he goes to an ATM, and they can't find out who this is. From this point, Gary is on his next mission to go from North Carolina to get as far away, utilizing the woods as possible, just in case, to get to another location where he can't be found, seen, or otherwise, just in case if there is a clue that it could be him. So he gathers his dog and he goes. So, has anything ever given you a red flag? Because this is a very sophisticated killer. Again, we're trained in coaching to see the client, to know that you're not an object, to teach people when they are in certain forms of relationships in their life to see a person as a person opposed to an object. Gary knew this training, which is scary. So, what do you do when someone is as sophisticated, someone as intelligent, someone that knows how to utilize certain words to lower your guard? And that's the key thing. And this takes me back to several videos back in reference to IQing, to see if there's hesitation, micro expressions in their voice. Write these things down. They could come in very handy. Notice things. See how they're reacting. See how they're staring at you. Seeing if their eyes are going elsewhere from IQing while talking to you. What could you possibly be thinking about when I'm asking you a question? What are you creating in your mind? Micro expressions. So your question's coming up now, and we're going to continue on where Gary goes next on this heinous spree of psychopath killer as he goes from North Carolina to Florida. Here's your question, and here we go.
Cheryl Hodges Dunlap was a 46-year-old nurse and devout Christian from Crawfordville, Florida. She was deeply involved in her church, the River of Life, and had participated in mission trips to Haiti, Mexico, and China. On December 1, 2007, Cheryl went hiking alone in the Leon Sinks geological area, a place she loved to read and reflect. Hilton's Broken Promise and Cheryl's Final Seconds. In his 2025 confession, Gary Michael Hilton finally admitted to the murder of Cheryl Dunlap, a devout Christian and nurse who disappeared on December 1, 2007, while hiking in the Leon Sinks geological area. According to Hilton's own words in the court TV interview, he swore to Cheryl that he wouldn't kill her. He claimed she was a real wheel in the church and acknowledged her deep faith. But his promise was a lie. I told her I wouldn't kill her. I swore it. But when she turned her back, I shot her in the back of the head. This moment, her turning away, perhaps trusting him for a fleeting second, is one of the most haunting aspects of the case. It reflects Hilton's calculated betrayal and Cheryl's vulnerability in her final moments. Gary said he is not often scared, or even one to get a chill in his own self, but Cheryl said to Gary, when his time comes, he'll have to meet Jesus. This got to me. I really felt her words, but redirected myself, and I finished my mission as Gary had stated. This statement, spoken directly to Hilton and once shared with loved ones beforehand, as if she was being prepared for something to come, has become a symbolic echo of her faith and moral clarity, even in the face of unspeakable evil.
So now Gary makes it to Florida. He's in Leon Sinks, which is an area where Cheryl likes to go decompress, relax, appreciate God and nature. She comes across this man with a dog, aka Gary. He then shows an aggressive nature. It's like his psychology shows that I'm someone to reckon with. She notices this. He brings it to her attention. And at this point, she's trying to talk to him. She's trying to see him as a person. Now, again, Gary is very smart. And a part of her had to know that despite what this man is telling me, I've seen your face. You're going to kill me. But maybe I could put the Lord in your head, knowing that perhaps you'll spare me. And he led her to believe that. He led her to believe that. He said, okay, you're a church going person. I'm hearing your words. But just in case Cheryl turns and says, when your time comes, you got to meet Jesus. You have to meet Jesus. Are you ready for that? Are you content with what you've been doing up until now and what you're possibly preparing to do? As if she had an impression, she had an idea of what was about to happen, despite what he was saying. But in his head, even though it gave him chills, it made Gary think. One of the key factors was that we tend to justify our actions. And he justified it previously in his last killing in North Carolina, and now in this one. This is my mission. Whether he could say, I learned that from being in the military, even though you never seen any kind of wartime, but complete the mission. Complete the mission. So that's how he was able to justify what he had to do, what he was about to do. And so when she turned her back, out comes the gun. And you heard the narration, and poor Cheryl was unfortunately killed. So you have this situation. As I said earlier, I've been attempted mugged. I have training. If I didn't say it, I meant to say it. And I was fortunate, due to my training in very close quarters, to defend myself against a knife. I don't recommend it, but if you are in a life or death situation, perhaps it is important to know that this person, if they take it out, they're usually going to use it. And that's what my training had taught me. So, fortunate for me, I have martial arts training. We specifically work in reference to close quarters with knives. I was fortunate. I don't recommend it, but my back was against my door in my car. I was standing, my door was open. This person was on something, and I was fortunate enough to defend myself. What would you do in this situation, though? You've seen his face. This person is going to act, but you didn't see the gun yet. He didn't have the gun. Do you attack before he does whip out a weapon? If you know, if you feel, if your impressions in you say this is going to happen badly. I learned a long time ago from one of the guardian angels in New York, his wife, Lisa Slywa. She was in a subway in New York City. A bunch of people approached her, gang-like type, and they seen her as a woman. They said, oh, you think you're a badass? You think you're this? And they attacked her. And she said, as long as you can still breathe, you don't quit fighting. And she didn't quit fighting. Eventually, one of the gang members, because it was just her by herself and 5 or 6 of these people, and they said, one guy said, we didn't come for this, sure, she's a badass, sure, she's, we didn't come for this. And she had a God, an angel watching out for her. So my advice is, if you don't see any weapon, or even if you do, in my training, I did see a knife, and it was in close quarters. But as long as you can breathe, you fight to survive. So now we're going to go back into the Georgia mountains, into Blood Mountain in Georgia, where Gary meets, at least documented, his final victim. Here we go.
The meeting, Blood Mountain, Georgia, January 1st, 2008. Meredith Hope Emerson, a 24-year-old University of Georgia graduate, was hiking with her black Labrador, Ella, on Blood Mountain, part of the Appalachian Trail in Union County, Georgia. She was fit, intelligent, and trained in martial arts, a woman who radiated strength and independence. Gary Michael Hilton, then 61, was lurking in the same area. A wiry drifter with a military background and a collapsible baton hidden in his gear, Hilton was looking for a victim. He later admitted he targeted Meredith because she was a woman, but he underestimated her. The confrontation. At first, Hilton approached Meredith casually. They walked together for a time, their dogs side by side. But Hilton couldn't keep up. When Meredith turned back down the trail, he was waiting, armed with a military-style knife and baton. He demanded her ATM card and PIN. Meredith fought back immediately. She grabbed the knife and tried to disarm him. She resisted fiercely, using her martial arts training. Hilton punched her, then calmed her by saying he only wanted money. He bound her hands with zip ties and led her away. 4 days of captivity. Hilton kept Meredith alive for 4 agonizing days. He drove her from bank to bank trying to withdraw money. But she gave him false pins, delaying him and buying time. During this time, Hilton raped her. He grew increasingly frustrated and angry. Meredith remained composed, even under extreme duress. Investigators later said she never gave up, mentally or physically. The murder. On January 4, 2008, Hilton realized Meredith was outsmarting him. He led her into the woods near Dawson Forest. He told her to lie face down. Then, he bludgeoned her to death with a tire iron. Afterward, he decapitated her to hinder identification and disposed of her body in a remote area. He shaved her head and removed her hands, a calculated attempt to erase her identity. At this point, there was an all-hands bulletin looking for Gary, due to Meredith outsmarting Gary by giving him fake PIN numbers at several ATMs, which left breadcrumbs for the police to follow. In the end, the police was a step behind, but between the bulletins and people seeing Gary at a gas station with his dog and putting items in a dumpster, the police was able to make an arrest.
So you heard the ending result, unfortunately, of what happened to Meredith, but she was so intelligent. She left breadcrumbs so this person could not hurt anybody anymore down the road. She stopped a killer. Unfortunately, it did cost her her life and torture. But this person, again, if we were to thank someone, all of these people, but definitely Meredith, that she is our angel, that she took someone off the streets that was killing people with no remorse, no anything, just a total pure evil. I don't even classify him as a human being. And just prayers to all these families and all the victims out there that went through this. And just recently, Carla Dunlap, even though it all equalized to Gary, he finally recently in the court TV interview with him, as well as to the police, has finally admitted, because he goes, I'm unhealthy. He admitted to Carla Dunlap, I did kill her. He says it, total confidence in it. Like, why now? I'm dying anyway. I have cancer. I have this. So now, because there's a stipulation on you, now because there's something, I'm going to do the right thing. But it's also another opportunity to put this person who admits he's a psychopath, who admits he's a narcissist, who admits he loves the glory of what he's receiving in reference to evil. So all of these things, I might as well get 5 more minutes of my claim to fame at these victims' expense. So I could take other people with me, so I could hurt other people. And speaking of other people, so remember how I said these are what at least has been documented in reference to Gary. Well, there are other people that they feel that are linked to the murders of Gary. And one would be Judy Smith. Her remains found in a national forest. Patricia Endres, Rosanna Milani, Michael Scott Lewis and Jason Knapp all vanished under suspicious circumstances in these forest areas. So again, grateful and thankful to Meredith for taking an animal, not even that's giving him way too much credit, just someone so evil, such an evil force of energy on this earth that she got him off the streets. So thank you for listening to Criminal Psychology Files, CPF. Please, in the comments, list your comments of what people can do when they see red flags, that if there was anything that I left out that you could help someone, please put it in the comment boxes. Also, please like, subscribe, and share. Again, the whole goal is to educate and help people out there see things, look for red flags, and protect us there. So until next time, thank you again, and I'll see you next day or evening. Have a great one. Talk to you soon.